Hello, good evening, and welcome. Willkommen, and actually I haven't been challenged with foreign languages for intros for a while, but welcome. This is The War Room. I am your host, Sean Pwnery. I know I haven't said that before. I also haven't mentioned a few other things, but I might do that in the intro here today. This is The War Room. This is day 69, dude! But it's not funny, and there's no jokes here. There's no humor to be had because it's a war, and wars suck, obviously. And I'm sorry, I'm still fumbling around with the settings. Clearly. Anyway, I've had a good day that ended very badly. In my own house, of all things. It's like you do your 9 to 5, you come home. On the way home, you're asked to do a favor. You do the favor, you come home, and you get your ass chewed. For nothing. Whatever. Anyway. This is going to be a relatively quick show. I think I have a lot of stories, but I have one co-host, and we're going to get through this rather quickly. I believe Mikhail Neitstritsky is still doing hit or miss, and I'm not going to step on his toes about it, so there's that. The other thing I'm going to start with is a bit of a rant, but before I get into that, let me go ahead and remind you that the scroller at the bottom has been updated. I have a puppy that's being a destructive little turd right now. Little war vixen. I am a Yorkie breeder, whether I want to admit it or not, and I have a female Yorkie puppy who just can't stop destroying everything she touches. I don't know what her deal is. She tried to chew the grips on my Colt Anaconda, and I almost caved her skull in. That's satire. She did try to chew the grips on my Colt Anaconda, though. Anyway, we do have a full show for you, but a small panel. And I'm okay with that, because it'll get you through and in and out of here within the hour. I'd like to go ahead and address the chat. Hawaii Volcano Squad has been my ride or die probably ever since the day I joined the website formerly known as Gun Channels, and he's been here the entire time. So good evening to you, sir, as well as Shady Hill Homestead. I'm sure others will file in accordingly if and when they get here. So good evening to you. If you see this on the replay, good day to you, because I don't know if you're going to see this in the evening or the morning or whatever. So, aside from me having to deal with 2 girlfriends, don't let either one of them know that, and having to deal with dogs destroying everything they touch, which is something I have to deal with, and my father who is Dr. Dementia, and my mother who is a drug addict, prescription drug addict, whether she wants to admit it or not. It's just a combination of whatever she takes turns her into Mr. Hyde. Which is funny because IPAs do the same thing to me. And yes, I've been drinking the Jekyll juice, but we're good. We're fine. Everything's fine. I promise. We're fine. We're fine. Even though I haven't done penny arcades in a while, we're fine. Today is day 69 of the War Room in Ukraine. And I'm going to bring in my co-host. This is Scottish Naya. This is also known as Scott P79. He and I have been bantering back and forth all day today about his Polymer 80 builds, and he's sorting them out, and he'll get them worked out eventually. But what he's doing is a good litmus test for when I start to build mine, if and when I get the ones I want in stock, which they're not in stock right now. So I may end up buying a Glock 17 Gen 3 Polymer 80 instead of a Glock 19 Gen 3, which is what I prefer. But I'm not opposed to the 17, so it is what it is. It's funny. My source has 17 build kits, but only 19 slide kits. And it's like, God damn it. And I know you could put 19 slides on 17 frames, but they look stupid. So I need a compensator, and then the compensator doesn't quite look right. You have to do a little bit of relieving on the front nose of the 17 frame. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll get to that. On the other hand, do I really care? Because I'm looking at, I've got I've got an RPK on the way. It's gonna be here Friday. That's awesome. I've got the compensator on the way. That'll be here tomorrow. I've got 40 round steel mags that are on the way. That'll be here also tomorrow. And I think I've decided my optic situation. Originally, I wanted to use a I wanted to use a Dragonov side mount 4x fixed optic. It's got that iron hammered finish on it, kind of grayish blackish, and I liked it. And I might still get one just for the sake of having one because I have a friend who has one for sale for not a lot of money. So I might still buy that. But today I came across an optic, which I'm sure Scott or other people on my server have told me before. It's a HoloSun 507C green with a, was it 60 MOA ring and the chevron, and it's got the ACSS reticle from Primary Arms, and I really like it. So the problem I have now is, for those of you who didn't know, I bought an AKP, which is like a crink, but it's in 76239. And what I ended up doing was I put my Trigicon RMR pistol sight on it, and it's perfect. It's mounted in the right spot, it's not too tall, and the dot co-witnesses perfectly on the tip of the front sight. I'm happy with it. I'm going to leave it there. And then I got a standard AK, which again is a PSA AK. It's the GF4, which I did a video on, with the artificial Bakelite furniture. And right now I have a, what's the name of that mount, Scott? RS Regulate.
RS Regulate.
Yeah. I have the RS Regulate full length over the dust cover optics mount. And I put a Romeo MSR and Juliet 3 micro combo on it. And I like that. I always wanted a Romeo and Juliet just to say, I have a Romeo and Juliet. Like, I know it's not the best thing out there, but I always wanted it. And, you know, wants and needs and wants and desires can't be explained sometimes, right? I mean, some of you are married to women that other people scratch their heads and go, what the hell were you thinking, you idiot? I have 2 girlfriends. Both of them are polar opposites. It's the same situation. My friends go, what the hell are you thinking, you idiot? But anyway, I'm thinking about taking that off my AK. And I'm thinking about putting that on the RPK. Because I kind of want to try the KUSA full-length optics mount, put that on this GF4, and then put an optic on it. I want to put the HoloSun 507C green chevron ACSS. Okay, now you know the whole name, right? And maybe I'll put that on this standard AK, and put the Romeo and Juliet on the RPK, because that whole optic setup, it's busy. You know what I mean? Like, it's got there's a magnifier, flip off to side, and then it's got this fucking red dot in front of it, and it's like, it's busy. That looks better on a big gun, so it's going to go on the RPK, I'm almost certain. And then I'm going to try the Kalashnikov USA over the top of the dust cover, you know, side-mounted optics mount, which is great because that gives me an option to put my brass catcher on the standard AK, which I can't do on this RS Regulate with the Romeo and Juliet because I ran out of freaking rail space. I have to get another RS Regulate upper mount and then cut the front third off of it and then mount that on the lower part of the RS Regulate mount, so I have a little bit of extra rail so I can mount a brass catcher. Then we're in good shape. And I emailed RS Regulate and I said, hey, do you have any blems or casting fuck-ups so I can just buy it off of you for next to nothing because I only need the front third. And I told them what I wanted to do, and I haven't heard back. So If any of you know anybody at RS Regulate, be like, yo, this dude, his name is Pwnery on YouTube, and he really wants this little bit. And if you made it, he would buy it. But if you have a broken one or a poorly casted one, just send it to him and shut him up so he'll stop mentioning it. Anyway, I'm watching my dog destroy her dog bed and a freaking blanket that I got from Hawaii that's older than I am. It's pissing me off. It's genuinely upsetting me. So you need to bear with me for a second because I have to grab this dog and I have to throw her on the floor because she's destroying. There you go. All right, problem solved. Because I like that blanket. You've seen it in most of my firearms reviews. It's bright pink and it has a bunch of Hawaiian lays on it. So HVS is probably like, oh yeah, I've seen that. It's a weird color, but it's cool. Anyway. Did I say that? My compensator will be here tomorrow. The mags will be here tomorrow. The rifle hopefully will be here by Friday. And then I can start thinking about what's next. Which, I must be insane for even considering what's next, seeing I've already spent 10 grand in 4 months. Why am I doing this, Scott? Anyway. And I don't have a Patreon, and I'm not monetized, so it's coming out of my own pocket. Why am I doing this? For those of you who don't know, I had to get oral surgery, and I got my second root canal and crown in my lifetime not too long ago. That's how I met my current girlfriend, who is amazing. So that was cool. It cost me 2 grand before I got to meet her, but whatever. Details.
Hey, at least you didn't have to order drugs from South Korea.
Correct. Not this time. Not like before. Actually, no, they weren't drugs last time. They were testing kits. But we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. Because that woman, she ruined my life on a level that was close to my fiance. So, both of them can go to hell. Either way, what did I want to talk about other than the stories? You just brought up something that... Oh, yes! And I'm looking at this chat, and I should have known. We are 48 episodes into the War Room, even though we're at day 69. I had some internet issues. We missed a few episodes. There's a couple of weekends when the stories were a bit short, so they weren't long and they weren't enough stories to make you an episode, so I skipped them that day. So we're at day 69, dude. Sorry, I just have to say that. It's stupid, I know. So we have that. And if you hear dogs screaming in the background, it's because I threw them all on the floor and now they're fighting amongst themselves. My apologies. But we're 48 episodes in, even though it's 69 days in. That's how long I had no internet and a couple episodes I couldn't do. I'm going to change the theme music for the War Room. Some of you know this one. I'm just going to play it for a few seconds so you remember what I'm talking about. That is actually the password entry music for the original Metal Gear. Some of you may have known that. Others maybe not. Anyway, I have the next season or the next section of episodes picked out for episode 51 and onward for the next 50 episodes. But I made this comment the other day about how there's a show. Comes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. For some of you who don't know, it's called the New Watch Podcast. It used to be known as the Early Watch. It's hosted by Jimmy James and Tony York. Very rarely do they bring other panelists in because they kind of want to keep it Laurel and Hardy or Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon. You know, you can use your own platitude here. But they host it on my server, and I've resisted the urge. I never jump into their channel while they're broadcasting. I don't want to be that guy, not unless they ask me to be that guy. So it's like I let them do their own thing. They run it. They do their own thing. It's their own flavor. And I guess between him and Tony, Jimmy thought, you know what? I'm sick and fucking tired of having to deal with copyright strikes. So what they ended up doing was Jimmy has... I don't know how he does it. He must have some sort of like jukebox or music bot, similar to how drum and bass DJs have their own drum machine software. And he came up with these different background musics, and then he created his own New Watch podcast theme song. And if you haven't heard it, it's addictive. It really is. Like, I don't know if somebody thought that maybe I made a mockery of it or a joke. That was never the intention. I am genuinely, I like it. I really like it because every time I hear it, I sit there and think, man, the only thing missing from this is 4 PBRs and a bar fight at a fucking ice house. And like the guy who nearly kills somebody hops on a Harley and rides off 1983. That's the way he does it. And it's like I hear it and I can feel it and I can see that scene. And I'm like, man, he's got a skill. He really has a talent to this. So I may have made a comment about that. And I said I would love for him to make a new or a War Room theme song. Now, what he made for me is awesome. I'm like, this is so cool. I wish it had more lyrics to flesh it out, but it's like I can sort of edit it for time. But this, like the background music he picked, and like his ability to do a voice that I can't do anymore since I quit smoking 15 years ago. I'm like, holy crap. I haven't decided if I'm going to use it as the theme song, but I will absolutely use it as a commercial for this show. Like, I'll take animated video clips of this war and put it behind the music he created because it is so worthy of your time. It's amazing. Anyway, that's coming, but I'll chicken out and I'll use from episode 50 onward, I'll use a different theme song from the same inspiration of the game that I used for the first one. But I will absolutely use what he provided me. And maybe I will make it as part of the show's theme song eventually. I'll find a way to make it work because he put in the time. I will use it. Anyway, I want to address something in the chat. Terry Scherer says he doesn't have an AK, but he has a French Moss 49. I'm going to assume he means 4956, and it's converted to 308, which means that's a Century Arms one. So I have two questions. One, does it actually run? Because every one of those I have personally run into has been a mechanical nightmare. And if it does run, number two, is it for sale? I'm in the market. I missed out on one locally. I had a guy that had one here in Houston. He had a 4956. It was converted to 308. It was a Century one. He must have got lucky because his worked, and I was going to buy it. But then I sort of chickened out because I was like, no, I'll just hold out for a 7.5 French. But in all honesty, I don't care. I just want the gun. So if you have it and it
my
runs,
local's got a couple spam cans of 7.5 French.
I'm okay with either one. I have a funny feeling that if I get one in 308, I'll still buy another one in 7.5 French. It's
probably no new.
Probably will, because you know me. I have to have all the Pokemons. I bought an Italian Vetterli Vitali.
You want to play Keeping Up with the Joneses?
No. I bought an Italian Vetterli Vitali, and I thought sidebar. I just watched the Sea and Arsenal Q&A, and I am of the opinion that May is my doppelganger of the opposite sex, because everything I've heard from all of her Q&As are me. They really are. Like, she buys guns the same way I buy guns. Like, some people buy guns because they're looking for a certain caliber, or they're looking for a certain, I don't know, feature, or they're brand loyal. I don't work like that. Apparently she doesn't either. She buys a gun, milsurps and things, when they have unique features that are unlike anything else. So, for example, I bought the Italian and Swiss Vetterli Vitali. I thought the magazine was cool. It was a conversion. It was awesome. And then, because I'm an idiot and I have to have all the Pokemons, a week later I bought the Dutch Beaumont Vitali. Same style magazine. Physically different. Visually the same. but it was the same guy. So I bought that. I bought a 880535 Turkish Mauser. For those of you who don't know, it's one of the best kept secrets for Mausers because you get the old world charm of the 88 magazine that's flush with the trigger guard. Very cool. But you get the '05 adaptation where it has the keeper and follower so you can run stripper clips instead of those end block clips. And it's chambered for the 323 bullet, so you can use the modern 8mm Mauser, which is actually 7.92, but you can run the modern ammo because the Turks took the 8805 receiver and mated it with a Kar 98K barrel, so you get to shoot the modern ammo. And then it has a Kar 98K style stock with the ferrule in the back to disassemble the bolt. But their 880535 doesn't have a bolt that you disassemble that way. Go figure, right? But then I turned around and I bought a Siamese type 4566 Siamese Mauser, which has the kind of bolt that needs that ferrule, but the stock doesn't have it. So when I did the video on my Siamese Mauser, I'm like, okay, I'm going to show you how to take apart the bolt. First of all, you need to reach over and grab your Turkish 880535 to take apart the Siamese Mauser bolt. And everyone was like, what? Okay, if you had a Kar 98, you can do it with one of those too. Anyway, I buy guns for their unique features. So I bought the Argentinian Mauser because it had a cool magazine. I bought the 880535 because it was like 3 guns in one. And it was like a greatest hits, and it's brilliant. And then I bought the Siamese Mauser because of its stupid dust cover. The one where you pull on the hook and then you push it forward to open it, and then you close it and it locks in place. I thought it was cool. I bought a Type 38 Arisaka, which was the sensei's rifle. There's a marking on it. It also says school, and it has a sensei's kanji on the side, which means this was a rifle that was a combat rifle that was taken out of inventory. It was given to the Kokura Arsenal School. It was given to the teacher so he could take it apart and show students how to service a rifle. That rifle is one of the nicest shooters I own. It's not the cast receiver school rifle. It's not that at all. It is a legitimate 38 that was taken out of service and given to the teacher. So it's a combat rifle. I bought that, number one, because of what it is, who it was given to, and the fact that it has a really cool dust cover that rides along with the bolt. Anyway, she does the same thing. I watched that whole 6 hours today at work, and I was like, yeah, she's my equal. It's cool. Anyway, I don't even know why I went on that tangent.
I don't either.
I don't either. Fuck it. Whatever. Terry says that his 56 runs perfect, but it destroys brass. I'm going to assume that the ejector is violent, and I've heard that before. And anyway, if you ever want to part with it, I'm your guy. Maybe I have something you want that I could trade you for. I don't know. I'll tell you right now, my Tula PU Sniper, not trade stock. But I do have a 1903A3 I might be willing to part with. It's a sporter, but I built it. You probably saw it on this old cat. Alright, now that I've wasted 24 minutes of your time, let's go ahead and get into the stories, shall we? I'm getting a lot of messages from Frankie all of a sudden. For those of you who don't know, she disappeared, she came back, everything's cool. So, the first story comes out of, well, it starts at 12:12 a.m. today, Central Standard Time, which is 7:12 dawn Ukrainian time. And I have a photo for this. Not every story I have is got a photo today, so just bear with me. I probably should have did a better version of that picture too. Anyway, 7:12 a.m. Ukrainian time. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Monday evening that a boy, 14, and a girl, 17, were killed following a Russian missile strike at Odessa. For those of you who don't know, Odessa is on the southwestern coast of Ukraine. It is the last port of entry in the Black Sea for Ukraine. It is what the Russians are desperately trying to overrun so they can turn Ukraine into a landlocked nation. I don't know if the West is going to allow this. I have a funny feeling that all these donations of hardware and lend-lease and all this other stuff is deliberately done to prevent that. I hope so. I really do. Anyway, the missile strike reportedly struck and destroyed a dormitory housing children. What is it? For what? What did these children and the dormitory threaten the Russian state with? Zelensky said during his usual nightly address. He added, a gymnasium founded over 100 years ago burned down near Lysychansk, Luhansk region, due to Russian shelling. It was built by the Belgians as a gift for my city. It withstood 2 world wars. But, as we see, this gymnasium turned out to be a terrible threat to modern Russia. He's a master of sarcasm, just like me. According to the Ukrainian government, over 200 Ukrainian children have been killed during Russia's invasion. Some of you might remember that I posted the story about the strollers that were put out in the town square to illustrate the number of children that were killed. Yes, it is propaganda. Yes, it is a human interest thing, but it's also iconic, right? So these are the kinds of things that you'll see in your history books 20 years from now. Because you got to remember, this year, for me, is the 25th anniversary of my high school reunion, which is reminding me that I'm not getting any younger. Even though I'm not that old. I just turned 43 about 3 weeks ago, for those of you who didn't know. I believe today's Scott's birthday, and he caught up, and he's 43. So happy birthday to you. I know I said I was going to make a big deal out of it, but I'm not. I know I respect your wishes. But today's his birthday. He's caught up. We're both 43. Today is the day that we have our 25th high school reunions. And it feels weird because the things that were in my history books my senior year, oh, he disappeared. I wonder if I made him embarrassed. Anyway, we'll see. Anyway, I don't know if the things in the history books when I graduated are still in history books today, but like everything that came afterwards is 9/11, Osama bin Laden, Afghanistan, things of that nature, right? And I feel like 20 years from now, there's going to be this in the history books. So that's the only reason I do these. Like, I don't have any personal vested interest in Ukraine, but I see it for what it is. That's why I tell the story. Because somebody's got to tell it, right? Anyway, the whole photo visualization of the strollers. That's kind of what I was like. You know what? That's probably going to be in history books because it's impactful but easily digestible by the viewer for the books. Certain things they can't put in elementary, high school, middle school level education. It's too vulgar. I always say that what's happening there should be shown on national TV because the world needs to see it. Because no matter how hard you try to turn your eyes away from it, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's happening. So you might as well just see it and realize that it's happening so you know how to deal with it. There you go. Now he's back. Anyway.
Told you I was going to drop out.
I told you I wasn't going to make a fuss out of it. I was just saying what it was.
And yet you did.
Well, yeah, but I didn't sing the song like an idiot. Anyway.
I didn't want anything said.
No, it's fine. It's whatever. I think I did the same thing on my day. Like, I just made it real small. Either way, whatever. Anyway, shit. Now I can't remember what I was talking about. Something about the history books and the Odessa. Oh yeah. So we shouldn't censor people from what's going on over there, just because if you keep it away from people, it creates basically the problems we have today. The woke generation. A lot of those people are running out there with their fists clenched without knowing a damn thing about what they're fighting for, because they've been pulled away from things so long that the one time it's brought to their attention, they overreact to it. And it's like, nah, you really don't know what you're talking about, so you look like a fool, right? But I don't know. Like, you can't desensitize people from the atrocities of war, but you shouldn't shelter them from it either. Because then when the actual things happen, where it starts affecting Americans, your sons, your daughters, your brothers, whatever, a lot of people won't believe it. They're like, no, how could that possibly be? I mean, this war's been going on since 2020, and all of a sudden we get involved and this is happening? It's like, no, dude, we've been hiding it from you. I mean, think about, like, the first time a U.S. GI found Birkenau. Nobody in the United States knew that was happening. And all of a sudden it was in your face. And then we had to realize, holy crap, this has been going on for years. We just found out about it, right? The American public had no idea. I think if the American public found out about it as it was happening, Hiroshima and Nagasaki wouldn't be the only two targets of those nukes. No way. But, you know, we're sheltering you to protect you because we're the government and we're here to help. Uh-huh. Okay. Let's move on. Let's see. About an hour later, I'm going to have a series of stories that don't have pictures, so I'm just going to read them off to you. About 8:15, Ukrainian time. Russia's actions over the last 3 months have caused the world to unite against them, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky said during his nightly address on Monday. The whole free world is united so that no one justifies Nazism, kills children, or destroys peaceful cities like Russia does. The Ukrainian president said his country will continue to oppose Russia militarily, will refuse to surrender any of its regions to Russia, and will ultimately emerge victorious with continued international support. The armed forces of Ukraine heroically repel the occupiers' attempts to advance. Kharkiv's direction, Donbas, the south of the country, everywhere the situation remains extremely difficult. But I am grateful to each and every one of our defenders who are holding the defense, he says. Zelensky also says Russia's military was responsible for the deaths of at least 220 children in Ukraine since the start of its invasion on February 24th. We know that. Gunmetal Guy, good evening. He says that I remember a quote Dennis Hopper once said, I don't have a problem growing old, I have a problem growing up. I think the perfect representative of that quote would have been George Carlin. He was a guy that was getting older, he was wise for his years, but he told it like it was, and he didn't have a filter. And the way he delivered his message is a lot of the way I deliver my message. We conduct surgery with an axe, not a scalpel. Because that's just the way we are. It's not about growing up. Sometimes the raw and seemingly immature response, if you're on the right side of the argument, is the correct response. My dad used to have this saying that vulgarities were used because the educated didn't have a better word to replace it with. Wait, no, sorry, I didn't say that right. Vulgarities are used because you don't have the intelligence to choose a better word to express yourself. That's the way he used to say it, and I disagree. Sometimes the vulgarity is the perfect way to paint the picture that you're trying to convey to the person you're telling your message to. Sometimes that has to be there. It's a necessary evil. Sometimes you have to paint the picture with blood instead of paint because that drives your message home. Anyway, let's move on. Let's see. About another hour later, so we're 9:15-ish, local time, Ukraine, Russia's military has implemented a scorched earth strategy in Luhansk, as its senior leadership wants to be able to celebrate a major accomplishment in Ukraine on its Victory Day, when it observes the end of World War II on May 9th each year, Victory Day in Russia. Luhansk Oblast Governor Sergei Lapdog said Russia will continue to ramp up attacks in his oblast ahead of the celebrations. Moscow has already announced it would reduce the number of military forces used in a parade on May 9th by 35% amid the ongoing war effort. Russia's Foreign Ministry, Sergei Lapdog, has clarified Russia is not looking to stop the war in Ukraine on or by May 9th, but is dedicated to seeing through its special military operation, which the world sees what it is, dude. Like, how do you keep peddling that catchphrase? It's like those idiots in the Democratic Party that keep calling it the Putin price hike. Trust me, the American people aren't stupid. The price hike started long before this war. We know where the fault lies. We will show it to you in November. Just saying. Okay, so about an hour later again, so now we're 10:15-ish, and I preface this story with, file this under duh. Russia intends to annex much of eastern Ukraine. An official move could come as early as this month, a senior U.S. official warned. Michael Carpenter, U.S. ambassador to the Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, said Moscow was moving to reorganize Kherson as an independent republic, which it also did in Luhansk and Donetsk. It also did it in Crimea after it annexed it. Just food for thought. The other thing that I wanted to mention is I'm not going to say this about everybody, like the Russian people, because that's blanket generalization. Russian governmental leadership, they're very big on optics. They're very big on tradition, I guess is a good way to put it. And this whole Victory Day thing, this whole May 9th date, you're going to hear me repeat this in the next couple of days, because apparently Russians put symbolism over principle. They feel like, oh, we have to win this war in Ukraine as a symbol of we did it on the anniversary of our victory against Nazi Germany. The problem is you people are the fucking Nazis this time, in every categorical and conceivable way. I'm not saying the Russian troops are that way, because a lot of those poor bastards are conscripts. A lot of those poor bastards are zit farms who never grew up in socialism, who never grew up in communism. They grew up in a Russia that was a federation, a Russian federation. They had Starbucks, they had McDonald's, they had KFC, they had YouTube and the internet, they had capitalism, they had freedom. Well, more freedom than usual that their fathers didn't have. Things like that. So, I'm not saying this. If you are a Russian citizen and you somehow catch this broadcast, just know that I'm not saying this about all of you. I understand it. I understand the conscript who lives in a village in the middle of the country, 300 miles north of India, where there's jack shit for industry in that part of Russia, and the only future he had was to join the military because not only did it provide 3 hots and a cot, but it gave him a purpose and a skill that he would never have learned in the village he grew up in. I get that. So, I don't I don't I don't lump you guys in with the rest of the leadership that's sending you off to foreign countries to die for a war that you have no vested interest in. There's this fine line between doing your patriotic duty and being sent to a fool's errand. I get that. And you can't speak out because you're just a cog in the machine. So, just so you know, I'm not picking on you. I'm not picking on you guys who work for Ivan the Bear Tactical, things like that. Like, you guys are capitalists. You guys are businessmen. You're not military people. You're selling military relics and or you're selling just memories of a Russia forgotten, in history. You're just selling things like that out of our curiosity for history. I know that most of you guys aren't like that either, right? You're not banging the drum of, crush Ukraine so we can get this over with. Everybody knows that. So, what is it? The websites are like Soviet army stuff and Soviet military stuff, right? Soviet military stuff is actually a website and a distributor for Russian and Ukrainian military equipment in Sevastopol. That's in Crimea. That's a Ukrainian country that got taken over by the Russians. Like, I know you guys aren't the kind of people I'm talking about when I'm like, you barley eating Slav scum. You're not that. You're obviously not that. Sorry, long tirade, I know. Let's move on. About another hour goes by, and this is. I know in the description I said that rhetoric and condemnation came worldwide. This is kind of one of those stories. So, about a quarter after 11, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken have criticized Russian Foreign Ministry Sergei Lapdog after he claimed former Nazi leader Adolf Hitler was Jewish. Now, okay, sidebar. There was a time, and there was a theory and a story that, was it his mother, Scott? Adolf Hitler's mother was possibly Jewish? Was that how it went?
Supposedly.
Okay. There's also a story that his mother was a hooker. Now that could be a
That's
smear.
more likely.
Well, that could be a smear campaign or whatever. I've seen pictures of his mom. He has her face. Like, they look identical. So his mother's genetic features transferred to him. Whether she was a Jew or a gypsy or a hooker, irrelevant, right? I created sort of a firestorm in college, and a lot of people kind of got upset, but thankfully cooler heads prevailed, and my sociology professor and psychology professor sort of backed my play. I wrote this thesis once about Adolf Hitler, and I used his derogatory title of the Bohemian Corporal when I titled it. But basically, I raised an argument that he wasn't wrong up until 1929. And I know that's going to rub people the wrong way, but think about it like this. He was a young man, World War I. He was wounded being a runner. He grew up in a country that was beat down by sanctions and demands by the world as punishment for the wars of his father. Maybe even his grandfather's. During the 20s, he got fed up and he said, enough of this. Stop being ashamed of being German. Stop feeling punished for the wars of our fathers and our grandfathers. And then he started promoting, like, national pride. Build things German. Be proud to be German. All that, right? Up until about up until about the time that, he was arrested and put in jail and he wrote Mein Kampf. Up to that point, one could argue he wasn't wrong. It was afterwards, after he surrounded himself with propagandists and psychos, after he had advanced Parkinson's disease and he was losing grasp of his psyche. He had
Well, I'm sure his doctor shooting him up with meth
didn't
did not
help.
help.
Right. But you see what I'm saying, right? When he had full grasp of his mental capacities up until like 1930, most people could look at what he was doing and go, no, that's a man who was proud to be what he was, and he was trying to get the people of his beaten down country to stop feeling ashamed of what they had nothing to do with. Their fathers had something to do with. Stuff like that. Anyway, this whole war of words clearly has offended the Ukrainians because their president is Jewish. And you've got Sergei Lapdog, who's the Russian foreign minister, who I won't dignify with his actual last name, but it's close to the sound of lapdog, because that's all he is a bitch to Putin, let's be honest. He's trying to insinuate that, first of all, this war is to denazify a country, which was responded to by, you people are fucking stupid. The president of Ukraine's Jewish. So then he turns around and he goes, well, so was Adolf Hitler. And it's like, no, that's not how that works, bro. Hang on a second. I'm going to bring in the Polish Warhammer because I did sort of ignore him yesterday because we were so close to the end of the story. Do not start by saying, by the way, did you hear this? Because I'm in the middle of something. So you're here.
Or playing the music.
I wasn't even going to mention that.
Don't play the music.
I ain't playing the music. Calm down.
Okay. But either way, the Polish Hammer is not to be derogatory. That was the name of a boxer and a wrestler. And he's cool. So don't play.
Just call me the Partisan, then.
No, Polish Hammer sounds badass. Anyway.
And so does a Partisan.
I guess. I don't know. Every time I hear the word partisan, I think of French people.
I think of Yugoslav
every time I hear it,
fighters.
I think of that Russian camo pattern.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, either way. All right, so let me go ahead and finish the story because I know I went on this long-ass tangent about the history of this whole thing. Bennett described the comment as unforgivable. Bennett being Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, the guy who defeated Bibi Netanyahu. He described the comment as unforgivable and said the lie was being used by Russia to justify its atrocities in Ukraine. Such lies are intended to accuse the Jews themselves of the most horrific crimes in history that were committed against them. Bennett continued, the use of the Holocaust of the Jewish people for political purposes must stop immediately. During a nightly address Monday evening, Zelensky said Russia was further repeating mistakes Nazis themselves committed during World War II. Russia's foreign minister openly and without hesitation said that the biggest anti-Semites were allegedly among the Jews themselves, and Hitler allegedly had Jewish blood. How could this be said on the eve of the anniversary of the victory over Nazism? These words mean that Russia's top diplomat is blaming the Jewish people for Nazi crimes. No words. This means that the Russian leadership has forgotten all of the lessons they learned during World War II, he added. Or perhaps, maybe they never just learned those lessons. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken similarly described the comment as vile and dangerous rhetoric. That's a really nice way of saying, you people are fucking crazy. Anyway, let's move on. Another hour goes by, and we're now a quarter after noon Ukrainian time, which I should have actually translated this to Beijing time, which I believe is 6:17 p.m. Beijing. Anyway, China does not appear to be providing significant military or economic support to Russia, despite initially gesturing to do so. This came from U.S. intelligence reports. Russia and China announced a no-limits agreement back in February, and trade volume spiked between the two countries as the war kicked off, but no significant moves have been made. The two countries have historically supported one another, and China has yet to publicly condemn Russia's invasion. So they made this deal back in February. Some trade happened, but China has since, after seeing the utter failure and incompetence of the infantry forces on the ground, China's like, oh shit, the global superpower we thought the Russian country was, isn't. And the only trump card they have is nuclear weapons. They are inept, they're useless. Their air force sucks, their navy's loud, and their military is hopeless. We allied with the wrong side. So they've been very quietly not doing a damn thing with them lately. Instead, they've sort of been undermining Russia. Yeah, okay, they're going to buy Russian oil, but we're only going to pay you 10 cents on the dollar. So we're going to take your resources and make you broke. That's not what an ally does. They're not making arms deals. They suspended all drone shipments to both Russia and Ukraine. So it rubs off like they're neutral. Okay, fine. The one thing they haven't done is verbally condemn Russia, because then it shows their hand. They're like, yeah, okay, now we're fully committed to saying we don't like you. Russia has conscripted Mongolian troops to fight in Ukraine. They can conscript Mongolian troops to fight against the Chinese northern border, a war that China's not ready to fight yet. They're still building their arsenal. They're still stealing copyrights for aircraft. They're still stealing copyrights for aircraft carriers and weapons. And they still have one of the loudest submarines in the ocean. So those aren't even a threat. Yeah, okay, they're ISBNs, but the fact of the matter is we know where they are at all times. They don't know where we are at all times. If we even had the hint that they were going to strike, they'd be turned into driftwood before they could even open their outer doors. I bet you didn't expect me to say that, Scott. You've heard me say for weeks, never underestimate your enemy. But every action that China has done since the start of this Ukrainian war has proven they don't want this smoke. They don't want it. They're not
I'm
ready.
surprised you actually knew that all their ballistic missile subs were at one particular base.
Well, they're very loud, too. The Han is loud. You can hear that thing from 30,000 yards out. Long before they can even catch a fix on you. And we've already got a shooting solution on them. So it's like, they won't even get their outer doors open for their fucking missile hatches. They won't even get a chance to fuel the missiles before they're hit with Mark 48s. And they know that, which is why they haven't done a damn thing. Anyway, they haven't publicly condemned Russia because then it would show Russia they have no allies, and that might tip Russia or Putin into doing something stupid, like firing a volley of intercontinental ballistic missiles at Ukraine, France, Germany, UK, and China. Just, I don't have any friends? Well, fuck all of you. Bleh! Right? That could happen. I mean, he is a crazy guy. Before I go on to the next story, and I sort of elaborated on the fact that he's a crazy guy, tell the viewers what you told me yesterday about Putin's health condition, because I wanted to leave that open for you to tell a story.
Well, apparently, people are starting to think that he's got stomach cancer and Parkinson's.
Because of what you saw.
Yeah. He was sitting talking to, I forget who it was, but he was using his right hand to hold the table. More than likely to cover up for the fact that it's uncontrollably shaking from the Parkinson's. And in the same picture, you could see his right leg was actually twitching, which he couldn't hide that.
And who do we know that was a military leader who was losing his marbles and saying outlandish things and was hiding the fact that he had advanced Parkinson's?
And doing outlandish things.
And yet now the new guy is accusing the people he's attacking of being like the guy he's turned
The
into.
old guy?
Yeah. Yeah. So does this mean there's going to be a bunker somewhere in Moscow where this bald-headed little sawed-off shit is going to off himself with a Makarov?
He actually used a PPK.
I know the original guy did.
Yeah.
But I'm saying this guy. Is he going to off himself
It's
with a
actually in the
Makarov?
Urals.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Is he going to be in a bunker in the Urals and marry his... I think HVS mentioned it. She was like a ballerina or something. Is he going to marry her the day he's going to have her commit suicide and then shoot himself in the head with a Makarov? And then say, burn my body but take my skull cap and give it to the Chinese along with this box with this piece of the last guy's skull cap that we captured? I don't know. What's old is new again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that was a good story that you brought up yesterday. That's why I wanted you to talk about it. All right, let's move on. We're going to leap forward about 3 hours. And I believe... No, I still don't have pictures. Sorry, this is not a very picture-heavy episode. 321. Actually, I thought I did have a picture for this. Let me just make sure. Maybe I just didn't write the caption. Yeah, okay, so I do have a picture for this. I just didn't write the caption. Somehow I must have forgotten it. Alright, so this is 321, and... Oh, you know what? I didn't even put it in here. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and add this real quick. I forgot to add it. We're doing this live. Sorry. Here, day 69, dude, and here. There you go. Let me scale this down a bit because it just took up way too much space. So this is sort of an add-on picture. I'm going to cover my own avatar in this. Here you go. All right, so 3:21 p.m. Ukrainian time. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, in an address by video to Ukraine's parliament Tuesday, told lawmakers in the war-torn country that their military has, quote, accomplished the greatest feat of arms of the 21st century by keeping Russian forces outside of Kyiv. Johnson made the mark as the United Kingdom government announced a new $375 million military assistance package for Ukraine in its fight against Russia. The UK says his speech is the first from a world leader to Ukraine's parliament since the war began. As you turned the Russian army back from the gates of Kyiv, not only accomplished the greatest feat of arms of the 21st century, you achieved something deeper and perhaps equally significant. You exposed Putin's historic folly, the gigantic error that only an autocrat can make. Because when a leader rules by fear, rigs elections, jails critics, gags the media, and listens to the sycophants, when there is no limit on his power, that is when he makes mistakes, catastrophic ones, he continued. Is he describing Russia or the DNC? I'm just saying. Like, I just read that and I'm like, holy shit, he's talking about Twitter. Pre-Elon Musk, that is. Anyway. Johnson added that Putin's mistake was to invade Ukraine, and that the carcasses of Russian armor littering your fields and streets are monuments not only to his folly, but the dangers of autocracy itself. The British PM also said that the ongoing war, which is now in its 69th day, is Ukraine's finest hour that will be remembered and recounted for generations to come. Yeah, it's going to be in history books. Your children and grandchildren will say that Ukrainians taught the world that the brute force of an aggressor counts for nothing against the normal moral force of a people determined to be free. They will say that Ukrainians proved their tenacity and sacrifice, that tanks and guns cannot suppress a nation fighting for its independence, and that is why I believe that you will win. Following his speech, Ukrainian President Zelensky said that the UK and Ukraine are now brothers and sisters, according to a statement from Johnson's office. Well, that's cool. Now, in the description of today's video, I had written, and that's why I chose this thumbnail today, is the UK and Germany are showing the world what a true world leader looks like. And they're not the only ones who did it. The prime ministers and presidents of Latvia, Estonia, I think Hungary, most of the Baltic states, they all came to Kyiv. They all walked the streets of the capital in visual defiance of the Russian people, or Vladimir Putin at least. And what did we send? We sent Nancy Pelosi. We didn't even send Vice President knee pads. She never left Poland. She never stepped foot in Ukraine. We sent Antony Blinken. We didn't send the leader of the free world. And yet, I don't want to say smaller or lesser, because it's not to discount their contribution. Other world leaders sent their figurehead, and we didn't. Which is why I wrote, Germany and England today showed the world what a real leader looks like. The funny thing is, Germany didn't send their prime minister. The opposition leader to the prime minister pulled up his britches, tightened his belt, and he showed up in Ukraine. And don't worry, we'll talk about him. We'll talk about him. So, moving on, around the same time, I have this photo for you. Remember that guy? I jokingly call him the one-lunger. 3:23-ish p.m. Ukrainian time. So it'll be about 2:23 in the Vatican. Pope Francis has revealed that he told the Kremlin back in March that he was willing to go to Moscow to discuss the war in Ukraine with Russian President Vladimir Putin. But the Vatican, to this day, has not received a response. Citing Italy's Corriere della Sera newspaper, Francis was saying that he first asked the Vatican's top diplomat to deliver the message to Russia 3 weeks into the war. So, day 21. We're at day 69. This began back on February 24th, obviously. The Pope, according to Reuters, said he told Putin's staff that he was willing to go to Moscow. He has yet to receive a reply. I get the feeling that Putin is not Catholic. Just a thought. Anyway, moving on. Again, around the same time, a couple minutes later, these all sort of hit my feed at the same time. This morning, it was like ding, 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 and I had to sort of sort it out. So, close to about 3:30 Ukrainian time. And I have this photo for you, which is sort of new. I think this was taken today. Ukrainian forces at the Azovstal steel factory in Mariupol said Tuesday that Russia's military is now storming the complex. The move comes almost 2 weeks after President Putin ordered his military not to storm the plant, but rather just block off the last pocket of resistance in the besieged Ukrainian city. Asked about reports in the Ukrainian media that the plant was being bombarded, Sviatoslav Palomar, the deputy commander of the Azov regiment that is holed up there, said it is true. Vadim Astaviev, a Russian Defense Ministry spokesman, said Tuesday that Ukrainian fighters holed up at the plant came out of the basement, took up firing positions on the territory and in the buildings of the plant. Astaviev said that Russian forces, along with rebel forces from the Donetsk, were using artillery and aircraft to destroy these firing positions. Mariupol Mayor Vadim Boychenko said earlier Tuesday that more than 200 civilians are still inside the Azovstal factory following UN-assisted evacuation efforts there in recent days. Now I got a question for you. I brought you a story yesterday that said that the UN and the Red Cross were allowed to enter Azovstal and to remove people on a humanitarian evac order. Okay? That actually started on Saturday, carried over to Sunday, and I brought you the story Monday. The entire time the Russian military was attacking the area. Are you trying to tell me that not a single UN delegate and not a single Red Cross member was injured, killed, or wounded in that bombardment? And then the question is, if one had been, then what? We've been preaching and saying Article 5 for weeks. Would that have been a violation? If Russia had agreed to allow these people in, and then attacked them, and one died, would that be considered an Article 5 violation? Because one would argue that the Red Cross of the UN wouldn't have sent anyone in if they knew they were going to be attacked, right? Just stands to reason. Anyway. Let's see. HVS is saying that Ukraine got M777 U.S. artillery and 40,000 rounds of ammo. I'll have you know, sir, that I posted a story. Actually, no, I don't think I posted it, but I had read this story and I shared it at the end of the show. That there was a concern that U.S. military hardware inventory is being drained while we donate it to the Ukrainian war effort, to the tune of 1/3 of our entire Javelin inventory has been expended in donations to the Ukraine, who have used it to great effect. We've used 1/3 of our inventory. We've also used 1/4 of our Stinger missile inventory in donations. And there was a concern that we're exhausting our own inventories should we need them. And I talked to my mentor today about this, and I said, you know, this is a non-issue. If anything, we should have gave them 65% of everything. Just boom, take it all. Use it now. Because if they, by proxy, can defeat our enemy, then we don't need what's in our inventory to defeat our enemy, because they did it for us. So then that fits that whole proxy war narrative, right? But see, we're not the only ones donating this stuff. The Dutch have donated Panzerfaust 3s. The Slovak Republic? They donated S-300s. The Turks have donated S-400s. The British have donated their military assistance. This is a global effort. And yet, nobody is trying to admit to the fact that we're involved. The world, that is. But we are. We're providing the weapons that they're using to kill Russians. We are co-conspirators to this war. We are fighting this war by proxy. You can spin it any fucking way you want at the AP, but you're wrong. We're involved. So if we're worried that we're depleting our inventory, there's two ways to look at this. One, send them more, give them the tools, let them finish the job. Then we don't even need it because they did it for us. Or two, this is the best part. Think of what this is going to do. And I'm going to bring up something that Jimmy talked about because he referenced my show before. Say we exhaust our Javelin and Stinger inventory. What do you think is going to happen here in the United States? We will basically, what's that thing that they use when someone has a heart attack?
Defibrillator?
Yes. We're going to use a defibrillator on the military-industrial complex of this country. Because if we're low on inventory, the military is going to put in a big rush order, aren't they? And people like Raytheon, they're going to be like, holy shit, we got this order. They want it at this date. We don't have enough people. There's going to be a hiring glut, isn't there? That's going to put people to work. That's going to put material manufacturers to work. They're going to have to make aluminum. They're going to have to spin up steel. They're going to have to make gunpowder or rocket fuel or primers or you name it to keep up with the new demand, right? So it's all positives on our end. We wanted to be the Lord of War. Don't bitch about the fact that you're exhausting your inventories. If you're running out, make fucking more.
Or how about like the reference of war dogs?
Go on.
Remember when they were buying that Chinese ammo? I was in Bosnia.
Yeah.
Well, just do what they did. Mislabel it as so-called Russian or some other ammunition and just take it from there.
We don't have to do any of that though here in the United States because who's
No,
going to...
I'm talking about people that are getting it for them.
I know, but what I'm saying is like, who's going to call us out? You know what I mean? It's like, is the Russians going to say you mislabeled that? You kept giving it to the... Fuck you, dude. We're not on the wrong side of this.
Yep.
You guys are on the wrong side of this. And anything we can do to defeat you faster, to keep your bullshit away from our coast, goddamn right we're gonna do it. Fuck you. So, who cares? A third of our javelins are gone. A quarter of our stingers are gone. You know what? Give them another third of our javelins. Give them another half of our stingers. Deplete our fucking inventory. Give him all of it.
I think we're doing it way too much, though, on our own ammunition, though.
No, but listen. Give him all of it. Because the fact of the matter is this country has more than enough people to put to work to rebuild that entire inventory in a fucking week if we wanted to. Think of Henry J. Kaiser. Think of the fact that he built a Liberty ship like every 3 days. Okay? Those are 1,000-foot-long cargo ships. They started from beams to on the ocean in days. Think of the Ford Motor Car plant that built a B-24 Liberator every day. Okay? Don't tell me it can't be done. Don't tell me there's a shortage. Bullshit. We have more than enough able-bodied people to make up that number. And if those people need more of what we got, give it to them.
Sean, I'm not saying you're wrong. However, how much production have we given into China? Add that in account.
We're not giving... Wait. When it comes to our munitions, we're not giving shit to China.
I'm saying not the ammunition. I'm talking about production on equipment.
You're asking that question on the basis that we're the only nation dependent on them. China is the world's manufacturer of cheap labor. Anything that we suffer from them, the whole world does, because they all do it too.
The point I'm getting at is America is not the same as it was back in the 1920s and 40s, dude. I mean, it's gone down from making our own mainstream manufacturing to what we're relying on as sources from China.
Yes, but there's no excuse for it. So, for instance, you know the microchip shortage that everyone was talking about for the last 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Because China creates most of the chips, like Foxconn and all them in China build the chips.
Correct.
The fact of the matter is every piece of tooling that they use to make those chips for us, we make the tooling and send it to them. So it's not a big deal. If we had to make it, we just stop sending the tooling and we just use it here. Yes, there's a bit of a downtime to get people up to speed. But you know what? That's what a wartime industry looks like. Okay? In 1941, December 8th, the world wasn't ready to build ships on the scale that they did. They weren't ready to build a B-24 Liberator every day or every hour out of the Dearborn plant. Okay? Don't make excuses for the laziness of fucking people. Because the United States population was a shred of what it is today. If anything, we should be able to do what we did then 3 times faster. That's all I'm saying.
So why aren't we doing it?
So we should be giving everything we've got to them so that war doesn't show up on our doorstep. Then we don't need it. but we can always make more of it.
But why are we sacrificing our rights at the same process? That's the part I don't understand.
Sacrificing your rights because of stupid people in the government is different than providing a sovereign nation the means to stop a war from spreading past its borders. Okay, that's different. You have to stop thinking of civil unrest. You have to start thinking of global war. Okay? The problems that we have here, the bullshit about the Supreme Court and Roe versus Wade, doesn't mean a fucking thing in Europe right now. Okay? That doesn't mean shit to anybody in Ukraine. That doesn't mean shit to anybody in Poland. That doesn't mean shit to anybody even in Russia, right? There are people in Russia who have disappeared because even they said, this is bullshit. Why are we supporting this? I don't know anything about communism. I don't want to go back to driving a fucking piece of shit Lada, which is just a recycled Fiat from fucking 1961. I don't want that shit. I have a fucking Mercedes-Benz and an Adidas tracksuit. Why the fuck would I give that up? Because of some derelict, bald-headed, fucked up piece of communist shit. Why am I following that? I'll tell you why. Because that guy's scared that he's going to have some KGB fucking FSB asshole show up at his day and put 2 Makarov rounds in his head. So he just keeps his head down and keeps his Mercedes in the garage with a car cover on it. And he's like, just don't notice me.
That or he's going to be like a mafia.
Yeah.
Just keeps paying people. That's all he pretty much is doing at this point.
Well, see, that's the thing. People talk about the Russian mafia all the time, and the fact of the matter is 90% of those people were built and bought by Putin. He built them. He made them. So of course he controls them. Do you think anybody that's a Russian mafioso is looking at Putin going, I can take that guy out? No. He's the guy writing their checks. Anyway. Let's move on. Because I put HVS on a tangent. Holy shit.
He did good, though. I liked it.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I try to look at things big picture. And I know it comes off as globalist, but, you know, I jokingly say this all the time. But, like, look, let's just create the United Federation of Humans. You know? Like this whole one world government bullshit. Look, I'll tell you what. You put me in charge of that, okay? And I'll sort this shit out in like a year. And the only thing I ask for in return is give me Kodiak Island, Alaska, and leave me the fuck alone. Okay? Just give me a card that says if I need something and I show you this, you give it to me. Because I won't abuse it.
How about Fairbanks?
No. Kodiak Island. I've been there. I want that. You can give me half the illusions. Whatever. Just, if I show up and I have this card and I'm like, look, my truck broke down. I want that Dodge Ram that's in that dealership. Here's my card. Just hand me the keys and leave me the fuck alone. Okay? I'm not going to abuse it. If I'm hungry and I'm like, look, I want that sandwich. Subway, give me a sandwich. Right? The problem is absolute power corrupts absolutely. But that's because it's been given to people who are greedy. Me, give me my little island with 1,300 Kodiak bears and fucking a couple of Coast Guard guys who sit in a radio tower talking about the weather and just leave me the fuck alone in my trees and my bears and my lovely little island with my Inuit wife and just fuck off. And if I'm hungry, I want that Subway sandwich. Here's my card. Give it to me and leave me alone. That's all I'm asking. And then someday, if you have the United Federation of Planets, just remember that I helped you get there. And that's cool. And if you want to name a starship after me and let me sit on it, and then have someone else captain it and take me across the cosmos, great! I'll do it. Then I don't need the island anymore. I'll have a replicator, and fucking James T. Kirk can send me to fucking anywhere else. And then I won't have an Inuit wife. I'll have some green wife from Mars with 3 tits. Forgot the movie reference. Fuck.
Rick and Morty?
No.
Because there's a woman like that.
No. You're too young for this. Movie reference. Scott. Total Recall. There you go.
Total Recall?
Yeah. Green alien chick, 3 tits. You're too young for that, aren't you?
I've seen this. I've seen the remake, but I haven't seen the first one.
The 3-titty chick was in the remake too.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry, I'm taking this into the gutter, aren't I? All right, let's move on. Shit, I wanted to get this done in an hour, and all of a sudden I've pushed this out to an hour and a half. My bad. Move to an island. Where have I heard that before? Yes, HVS, you're right. But Kodiak doesn't have a bunch of liberals. They just have a couple of Coast Guard guys, a couple of Inuits, and a shit ton of bears. That's good enough. Let's move on. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
At least it got my mind off of this bullshit I've got going on in my house. Alright, so let's see. Around the same time, so the last story was about 6:25. No, I haven't gone that far. Sorry. My mistake. So now we are at 6:25. So fast forward 3 hours from the last story before I tangented it off into outer space. And I'm going to show you a picture that's probably going to make you nauseous because it is Sergei Lapdog. Russia's foreign ministry on Tuesday accused Israel of supporting neo-Nazis in Ukraine in a move that escalated a back-and-forth spat between the Jewish nation and Moscow. The row began after Foreign Minister Sergei Lapdog on Monday defended claims made by Russian President Vladimir Putin as an attempt to justify his illegal invasion into Ukraine by alleging his forces are working to denazify regions that have been subject to oppression by Kyiv. Ukrainian and international leaders have rejected these comments as a guise to justify his brutal campaign and point to the fact that Russian President Volodymyr Zelensky is Jewish and was democratically elected. But in an interview with an Italian news outlet, Lapdog doubled down on the claims and said, "For some time, we have heard from the Jewish people that the biggest anti-Semites are Jewish. When they say, how can Nazification exist if we're Jewish? In my opinion, Hitler also had Jewish origins, so it doesn't mean absolutely anything," Lapdog added. Israel shot back Monday, calling his comments unforgivable and a terrible historical error that minimized the atrocities committed during the Holocaust. Washington Post fact-checkers said there's little evidence to support Lapdog's claim. Jews did not murder themselves in the Holocaust, the Israeli foreign minister said. The lowest level of racism against Jews is to accuse Jews themselves of anti-Semitism. Russia's foreign ministry on Tuesday countered Israel's claims and claimed that Foreign Minister Yair Lapid's comments contradict history, adding that his stance largely explains the policy by the current government of Israel to support the neo-Nazi regime in Kyiv. For some reason, the Western press and some of our own liberals still debate the question of whether there are neo-Nazis in Ukraine, with Volodymyr Zelensky's origins cited as a substantial argument. The Russian ministry added that claiming this argument had held no water. Russia has yet to provide any proof to support its claims of oppressive action by Ukrainian officials. So let me point out something. Putin claims he's denazifying a country. Lapdog is backing up the stance that they are denazifying a country. The country has a leader that was once an actor and a comedian, and he was democratically elected, and he's a Jew. Okay? And I did that. I said that in the spirit of the comedian known as Louis Black, who is also a Jew, and he always tells these jokes like that. So let me get this straight. You're denazifying a country. Your foreign minister is parroting your comments about a nation that's led by a democratically elected Jewish guy. You have employed the Wagner Group, who is named after a German composer and is led by a self-proclaimed neo-Nazi, Russian neo-Nazi, who has SS lapels tattooed on his neck and the Nazi chicken tattooed on his fucking chest. You have employed him to denazify a country that you have illegally invaded that is led by a democratically elected Jew. Shut the fuck up.
Guy's smoking crack and doesn't want to take responsibility.
What a fucking moron. I'm telling you, dude, my mentor says that he used to try to tell me not to tone down my vulgarity. I have finally convinced him that sometimes vulgarity is the correct words to use to convey your feelings. The absurdity, the absurdity of leadership in our own country and now leadership of belligerent nations abroad deserve nothing less than my response. I don't do surgery with a scalpel. I do surgery with a fucking chainsaw. Because that's what's necessary. We are being led by idiots. There are other leaders around the world who are also idiots, and they are attacking good people in sovereign nations. And for some reason, we haven't stomped their fucking guts out yet. Why? Because they're the nuclear boogeyman of the Cold War.
They're not going to hit a nuke. If they are, they're not.
No, I believe that he's crazy enough to do it. I really do.
Are you serious? Come on.
No, but the thing is knowing that that's going to happen, why don't you just preemptively destroy him before he can even consider it? Fuck it.
Hell, we just pay off the Russian mafia inside the Kremlin.
Ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. They won't turn their back on the guy who writes the checks.
Bullshit. Like, how much are they paying them?
Enough to keep them contempt.
What, $1 million per person?
Per day? I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. I really didn't think this was going to go on this long. I'm missing a photo. I've got to add another one, so just bear with me. How the hell did I miss this? Anyway, let me add this in right quick. There you go. So some of you may know this picture, some of you may recognize who this is, and some of you may not because you're not fans of the NBA or the Women's League. Alright, so 6:27 p.m. Moscow. This is a response to a Moscow story. U.S. State Department has determined, this is another one of those file this under duh. U.S. State Department has determined that Russia has wrongfully detained WNBA star Brittany Griner when she was arrested back in February, an official said in a statement. Griner was arrested in February after Russian officials claimed a search of her luggage revealed vape cartridges containing oil derived from cannabis. It was hash oil. Griner could face up, well, number one.
No, I'm just saying it's weed. Like, what's wrong with it? Come on.
Number one. Oh, have you ever seen the show Locked Up Abroad? Yeah. Never, ever take illegal drugs into the Philippines. Or drugs that are considered illegal in someone else's country. The moral of the story is if you're going to someone else's country, leave your fucking drugs at home, you moron. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that, though. Honestly, I'm one of those people who think weed's not a drug. It's a plant. Okay?
Well, at this point, it's like it's getting legalized. Just let everybody have it at this point.
Well, we might say that, but the rest of the world might not. But I mean, I'm not opposed to it. Like, I'm with you, right? A drug, by definition, is a chemical compound synthesized in a lab. Weed is a seed you stick in the ground, and you add a little bit of water, and give it a little bit of sunshine, and maybe even talk to your plants, and you'll get weed, okay? That's a fucking plant. It's like a tomato. It's not a fucking drug. If you want to argue about drugs, then why the fuck didn't you stop alcohol? Which I am clearly a fan of. Anyway.
Prohibition.
Anyway.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get on this.
So anyway, Griner was arrested back in February after officials claimed a search of her luggage revealed vape cartridges containing oil derived from cannabis. Griner could face up to a decade in prison if she's convicted. If you're convicted in Russia for 10 years, you may not live to see past 3. Just saying. She's expected to have a hearing in Russia on May 19th. Funny, 10 days after their victory day, right? The welfare and safety of U.S. citizens abroad is among the highest priorities of the U.S. government. That's bullshit, because you got a Marine sprung out in a prisoner exchange with a known drug fucking kingpin in Russia, and you left the guy who was detained in Russia longer than the Marine. Don't fucking tell me that getting citizens locked up abroad out is your priority, you fucking liars. Anyway, the Department of State has determined that Russian Federation was has wrongfully detained U.S. citizen Brittany Griner. Somebody in the chat is going to say the name of the guy who's still detained by Russia. If I see it, I'll recognize it. I will repeat it. Sorry, my memory's a little fucked up right now. With this determination, the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs, Roger Carstens, will lead the interagency team for securing Brittany Griner's release. What criminal Ruski scumbag are we going to trade to get back our basketball player who willingly and knowingly brought illegal drugs into someone else's country and got caught? Huh. Who are we giving up for that one? Let's move on, because I don't know the answer to that question. 2 hours later, 8:34 p.m. Ukrainian time. I have this picture here. So, it was...
which Marine are you talking about that's been arrested?
Huh?
Was it the one that was arrested in Russia 3 years ago?
You would ask me that, but I can't really remember. If I see the name, I'll recognize it.
Paul Whelan?
Huh?
Was it Paul Whelan?
That might be it.
Yeah, because this was 3 years ago.
Yeah, that might be it. Anyway, this photo is actually evening. 8:34 p.m. Ukrainian time. Lviv Mayor Andriy Sadovyi, in his Telegram page Tuesday, says explosions were heard in Lviv and is urging residents to stay in shelters. Part of the western Ukrainian city is suffering from power outages following the blasts. A video purportedly showed the aftermath of the explosions. That's a screenshot of it, which is posted on Twitter. Shows a large cloud of black smoke rising into the sky. I had a video of this, but it had like the news agency's stupid watermark across the whole thing, and this missile was flying in the video through the watermark, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to share that. Anyway, Lviv was attacked by missiles in the evening.
My Polish city in Ukraine.
Now, I'm going to say this, and Night Strike is going to jump in the chat almost immediately after I say this, but that's funny. I said, who are we going to trade to get back an NBA basketball player who willingly brought drugs into somebody else's country and got caught? HVS says, trade him the Yankee Marshal, FPS Russia, who's actually a white dude out of Atlanta, Georgia, who has... Listen, I do a better Russian accent than he does. And Night Strike. Exchange to take place at Checkpoint Charlie. Oh, what was that movie about that Tom Hanks was in about a prisoner exchange at a bridge? That's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Bridge of Spies.
Huh? Yes. I'm glad you said that. Yes.
It was exchanging in East German.
Yes. Yes, you're right. You're right. That's Checkpoint Charlie, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So both of y'all were on the same... Yeah, good job. Both of y'all are on the same page. I don't know if they would take Night Strike. He would walk in and go, I don't like Glocks, and I don't own any AKs. No, he does. He owns an East German AK. He would fit right in. They'd be like...
Hungarian East German mutt build.
Well, he would walk in, and he would hold this East German mutt AK, and he'd be like, I'm here for prisoner exchange. And then, like, the Russians would be like, you're one of them. You're East German. You're not exchangeable. Anyway, you are not Spetsnaz. Anyway. If you don't know that quote, you are not Spetsnaz.
Speaking of movies, you know it's a really good movie?
Huh.
What was it? Basically, why are you here? Why am I here? You know what I'm talking about?
No, go on.
shoot.
How are you gonna ask that question and not know the answer?
There was I forget which movie it was, but basically the Soviet soldiers were interrogating the guy, and he says, "Every time you don't answer my question, I cut off a finger. Yours or mine? Yours." You don't remember that?
I don't remember that. No. The last time I had an interrogation in my head, the questioning was, if you, or he goes, if you lie to me, I will hurt you. If you don't answer my questions, that will be considered a lie. That was from Zero Dark 30. Half truths will be considered a lie. Stuff like that. Anyway, sorry, we're tangenting again. All right, so we're going to fast forward 4 hours. I believe this is the last story of the day. And this was the other, quote, leader that showed the world what a leader looks like. And it wasn't even the leader of the country. You're going to love this. You're going to love this. And the picture, the PR photo op, was actually quite good. Oh, Patrick says spies like us.
Spies like us, yes.
Yeah. Good job, Patrick. See, like, he's so useful for things like that. All right. Because, like, he and I, like, in the regular chat throughout the day, we bounce quotes off each other all day. It's like, I think we're just trying to figure out who could stump who. Anyway, that guy right there in that picture, you're going to love this. 12:30 a.m., 12:31 a.m. Wednesday, Ukrainian time. This is obviously a post facto story. Germany's conservative opposition leader traveled to Kyiv on Tuesday on his own attrition for meetings with Ukrainian officials, including President Volodymyr Zelensky. So he was willing to listen to the opposition leader of Germany. As Chancellor Olaf Scholz made clear that he wouldn't be visiting Ukraine anytime soon. Who else do we know that's a world leader who said the same thing? Oh, that's right, Captain Sundowner. Scholz has traded barbs with Ukrainian officials in recent weeks because of Kyiv's refusal to invite Germany's heads of state, President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, whom Ukraine accuses of cozying up to Russia during his time as foreign minister. Gee, it's almost like the Germans are trying to set up a deal with the Russians again. Maybe they're going to sign a non-aggression pact again, and then maybe the Germans will turn around and invade Russia again during the Russian winter and get their shit pushed back in again. Where have I heard that story before? It won't work that a country that provides so much military aid, so much financial aid, you then say that the president can't come. Scholz said this to public broadcasters. That's a really awesome dig at Biden, but he wasn't even talking about Biden. He was talking about his own leadership in Germany. How cool is that?
Germany sucks.
Let me repeat his quote. It cannot work that a country that provides so much military and financial aid will not send the leader of that country. You can't make this shit up.
Germany outright sucks at this point.
So do we, because we said the same thing. Like, he took a dig at Biden without even realizing he was taking a dig at Biden. Think of how much financial aid we sent them. Think about how much military aid we sent them. Think about the idiots we sent over there representing us. Like, every time we left, the Ukrainians must have just sat there going, what the fuck was that? Lloyd Austin. What the fuck was that? Nancy Pelosi. Who's this turtleneck bitch? And why is she carrying bowls of ice cream? Why has she got a scarf around her neck? Oh, that's right, because we don't want her to see that she's a fucking crypt keeper.
Or she's a Skeletor.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's a good one. Anyway. If you loan Night Strike your Russian camo BDUs, they might accept him. See, he's not tall enough. I'd have to put lifts on him. Like, the set I've got for a guy is about 6'4". He's about 5'8", 9-ish. I'm 6'1". It's still too big on me. Anyway, let's move on. Let's see. Ukraine's ambassador in Berlin, Andrzej Melnik, responded Tuesday by calling Scholz's refusal to visit not very statesmanlike. This is about the most brutal war of extermination since the Nazi invasion of Ukraine. This isn't kindergarten, he said. German opposition leader Friedrich Merz, that guy there in the picture, who heads former Chancellor Angela Merkel's center-right Union bloc, visited the town of Irpin on the outskirts of Kyiv to see the destruction caused by the Russian army firsthand. Speaking to the reporters against a backdrop of shelled buildings, Merz expressed his full admiration to the Ukrainian military for having halted the Russian advance at Irpin and pledged to help the town rebuild. Remember, he's the opposition leader. He's not the guy in charge, and he still made these commitments. German daily Bild reported that Merz later met for an hour with Zelensky at his presidential office. Remember, he's the opposition leader. He's not the guy in charge. He's still got to meet the president of Ukraine. Merz's visit to Kyiv comes days before 2 German state elections in which his Christian Democratic Union is hoping to regain and retain power. The Union bloc joined Germany's 3 governing parties in a non-binding vote backing the delivery of heavy weapons to Ukraine last week. German media reports that the government is planning to approve further armaments for Ukraine soon, including large self-propelled howitzers. I wonder if they're going to send Gustav and Dora. No. How about the Paris? No, they don't have that one either, do they? How about V2? No, they don't have those either. Critics, particularly on the far left and right, have argued against providing weapons to Ukraine, saying Germany risks being drawn into a conflict with Russia. German authorities say that they have recorded the arrival of some 400,000 refugees from Ukraine since the start of the war. I don't have anything clever to say after that. It's just... Let me put it to you this way. This story, if I were to translate this for an American audience, would be Donald J. Trump takes money out of his own pocket, hops a charter flight to Ukraine, walks the streets of Kyiv, shakes hands and meets with the president of Ukraine, and shows more statesmanship than the entire active U.S. government single-handedly, and then does interviews on national and world TV with the backdrop of the devastated country he willingly walked into. That is what a leader does. What's Biden doing?
Nothing.
I left that as an open question. I'm not going to answer that. Gunmetal Guy has arrived. I always just call him GMG. On the way home from work, I saw a woman, maybe 100 pounds, in a feet of position under a bus stop bench. I'm a little confused at the world's priorities. I gotta say real talk. It does multimillionaires in their blue man suits pay for their own trips. Yeah. I think that if Donald J. Trump hopped a plane and walked into Kyiv and shook hands with Volodymyr Zelensky, the world would embrace it and CNN would explode. And The View would lose their minds, and that cow, Joy Behar, and that other cow, Whoopi Goldberg, would start screaming that he should be arrested for treason somehow, for undermining and endangering the United States by talking to world leaders when he got elected out, because they still believe that he lost legitimately. But I'll leave that up to the E-Hondas and the other tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists out there. Although I do have a bit of a gripe. Somebody pointed out to me today that the NRA show took place in, was it Indianapolis this year? Something like that. And I asked the question, I was like, wait a minute, wasn't it supposed to happen in Houston? That was last year. It was canceled because of COVID. And I thought it was rescheduled to come back here. But apparently the NRA was like, nah, fuck that town. So they went somewhere else, right? And I saw a couple of Instagram photos of a bunch of former Gun Channels members all getting together. And I was like, huh. And then they mentioned the website. And I was like, huh. And every time I used to check the website, it was sort of like the beginnings of a, what's the name of that website? WordPress page? Something like that? But it was very
WordPress?
sparse. Yeah, it was like very sparse. And I thought, wait a minute. Okay, so if he's bringing it back with this, why has it been like more than 2 years and it hasn't been updated? So I just curiously went over there and I looked, and it was sort of updated. And it had like something that the old Gun Channels used to have. It had the schedule of what was going on during the week. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And wouldn't you know it, we're not on that list. Haters. Haters.
Figures.
Whatever. I guess apparently I am persona non grata because I had made friends with people that they didn't like, who funnily enough is no longer part of my server because we had a falling out over dumb shit. Whatever. Anyway, it's been an hour and 45 minutes. I never thought this was going to last this long today. I really thought I was going to get you guys out of here in an hour. And if you're still here, I really do appreciate you being here. I'm going to read some updates that came up in the news while we did the show. And let's see, the only one that I can mention that matters is about 50 minutes ago, the governor of Donetsk.
Oh, Jesus, that city again.
Yeah, the eastern region. In Donetsk, 21 civilians were killed and 27 more were injured following an attack by Russia's military. Donetsk Governor Pavlo Kirilenko confirmed the attack in a Telegram post, where he also provided photos of the deceased victims and vowed to hold Russia accountable. This is the largest attack in the region since the attack on the Kramatorsk Railway back on April 8th, when 57 people were killed and 109 were injured.
Wait, these said the Russians are shooting up their own people in Donetsk?
Yeah, because apparently they're not all full of Russian separatists. Imagine that.
Hey, serves you right. You Ukrainians who betrayed your own goddamn country.
Yeah. So anyway, 5 minutes ago, or sorry, the next story came from 5 minutes ago, and it says, finally, Azovstal steel plant evacuees have arrived in Zaporizhia. This was confirmed by Volodymyr Zelensky. Now think about this. 4 minutes ago, 10:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. Add 7 hours. It's 5:15 a.m. Wednesday, Ukraine. This guy hasn't been to bed yet. If you've ever wondered why Zelensky looks like he has aged 60 years in the past 69 days, look no further than this update right here. Right?
He hasn't had sleep, not one bit.
Not much. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced the civilians evacuated from the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol have made it safely to Zaporizhia. We finally have a result, which we have been organizing for a very long time. It took a lot of effort, long negotiations, and various mediations, Zelensky said during his nightly address, referencing the civilians who were initially evacuated on May 1st. Today, 156 people have arrived from Zaporizhia, women and children. They have been in shelters for more than 2 months. The Ukrainian president said, mentioning the youngest evacuees are just 6 months old. Finally, these people are completely safe. They will get help. Yeah, for now. Zelensky thanked those who assisted in the process in both the evacuation from the plant as well as those who are treating and housing them in Zaporizhia. He also said that his administration will continue to do everything to get all our people out of Mariupol and Azovstal. Reports estimate that as many as 100,000 civilians could remain in the city, which had a pre-war population, of 400,000. Oh, no problem, dude. Gunmetal Guy says, thanks for doing this on the regular. I originally intended to do this every single day until this was over. And in the beginning, I will admit I was a bit naive because I didn't realize how Herculean of a task it is to do my 9 to 5 and handle Dr. Dementia, my dad, who's now 87. And, well, I'm not going to disrespect my mom, but I think the combination of medicine she takes does make her mental a bit. So I had to deal with her and her shit, who's 70. Or, sorry, my dad's 86. My mom's 70. And 8 Yorkshire Terriers. And 2 girlfriends.
Wait. You got 2 girlfriends?
Yeah, it's a long story. And then...
Don't even mention.
Well, because I thought one of them disappeared, and then all of a sudden she just popped back in. And I told her what had happened, and she was like, that's cool. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, I know I've been sort of distant. And then she turned around and went right back to being distant again. So I was just like, whatever. If she shows up, she shows up. If she doesn't, I don't care. Because the one that came after is so much better. So much nicer. It's like, I don't deserve a girl as nice as this. I really don't. Maybe I do, actually, because I've been dealt some really shitty hands for the last 20 years. So maybe this is my comeuppance. Anyway, I got to deal with all that in my house, and I've got to keep it from falling apart. And I've got to just do my daily things. And then I got to come home and do dinner, dogs, show prep, thumbnails, photos, this layout, background music, and still talk through everybody because it's very hard to get my panelists to speak because I don't give them segues as much as I would like to. But I'll work on that. I'll work on that. Promise. I got Scott to tell a story today, so I'll work on that. I promise. But yeah, it got to the point where there were certain days where I just didn't have anything I could add. Like. So this weekend was a perfect example. I tried. I looked up stories. I have about 30 sources, and it was all just human interest stuff, which, okay, Time Magazine, human interest stories, that's what you read it for. This show, timeline for the war, not really what I was doing, human interest, right? So I didn't have much meat and no potatoes to give you. So instead of just, here's a 5-minute show, just deferred it. Sunday, same story. Today, or yesterday, there was just enough. Today, apparently I got this out for 2 hours. Never thought that was going to happen. I looked at the number of stories I had, and I'm like, I'm going to get these guys in and out in an hour. Who would have thought that I would have had so many tangents to work off of? And thanks to you, the audience, who have been very active in the chat, kept me going in tangents, which is not a bad thing. Like, this is supposed to be an open forum and discussion, so I don't know. I watched that Q&A with CN Arsenal, and I heard Othias talk about he didn't want to do shows unless it had some sort of useful content. I still feel like I'm not giving you anything useful, but you're here and you're watching, so it must not be terrible. So maybe it's something that I can work with, or that you guys can tolerate. That being said, I'm going to play this, because it's been 1 hour and 53 minutes, and I haven't eaten dinner. So anyway, if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, check out my other playlist, see if my other interests might be of interest to you. I do have a new firearm coming, hopefully it'll be here Friday. I will try to record that on Saturday, so I give you a new firearms review on Sunday. If you would, be so kind, like, share, subscribe, maybe mention it to other people who haven't done those things, or to let them know that I'm here, because apparently I don't make the freaking schedule on the gun channels that I helped keep going. Whatever. Anyway, this was the War Room. This was day 69, dude! We'll be back tomorrow for day 70. Thank you for watching. Slava Ukraini, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Slava Ukraini.